Hey, just wanted to give a little introductory lecture to Mounce chapter 5, 6, and 7. This is going to be the first of a number of little lectures along the way to get you up to speed about what we're doing in Greek in this chapter. There's a lot going on here, but the first place we're going to start is with English grammar. Okay, so I didn't learn a lot about English grammar until I took Greek, and so here we go. We're going to learn a little bit about English grammar and learn some of the terminology that we're going to use. All right. So in this sentence, I hit the ball over my fence. There's a number of things to note. Okay, obviously we start with the verb, and our verb is hit, but everything is going to go around the verb in this sentence. So there's a subject of the verb, and the subject of the verb is the person or thing that's doing the action of the verb. It's what we call the subject of the verb. And the subject of the verb does the action of the verb. What receives the action of the verb is what we call the direct object. And so in this case, I is the subject and the ball is the direct object. And so we're going to call that the direct object. Now, you might hear this, like if your kids are in English grammar and they're taking their classes, you might hear them talk about predicates and stuff like that. And I'm like, look, in Greek, only to-be verbs take predicates. But all that to say, right now we're going to call this the direct object. Okay, so subject is I, the direct object. And then what we have is what we call the indirect object. And that's something that is affected by the action of the verb, but indirectly. So the ball is directly affected by the action of the verb hit, but fence, so I hit the ball over my fence, the fence is the indirect object. It's receiving some of the action, but indirectly, and so we call it the indirect object. Okay. Now lastly, as it relates to Greek, there's more English grammar that we could do here, but as it relates to Greek, there's one other thing that we need to pay attention to, and that is the word my in this. And in this case, my essentially forms a possessive to the fence. Whose fence is it? It's my fence, so it's possessive. Now, here's the short version of what's going on in Greek. In Greek, there are 4 cases, okay? In English, word order is dependent on the order in which it comes in the sentence. So every time in an English sentence, the subject will precede the verb. I hit, he ran, something like that. The subject is always preceding the verb, and then the objects, the direct object and the indirect object, will follow that, unless you're Yoda. Yoda always starts with the direct object, right? And so we don't speak Yoda, we speak English. And so I hit the ball over my fence. English is dependent on word order in order for us to understand that. Okay, Greek's a little different. So Greek will do something, it will assign what we call cases to these grammatical functions in the sentence. So whatever is the subject of a sentence will be in what we call the nominative case. Whatever is the direct object will be in what we call the accusative case. Whatever is the indirect object will be in what we call the dative case. And whatever is a possessive, we will put in what we call the genitive case. And the way this works is that, so we've got nominative, accusative, genitive, and dative. And those are 4 cases that we have in Greek. So grammatically speaking, the way this works is that you will have nouns that will appear in various cases. Okay? How this is going to work is that in Greek, if you want to show how a word functions in a sentence, it doesn't depend on where you put it in a sentence. What it depends on is the ending to that particular word. Let me grab an eraser over here, and let me show you what I mean. So, if I want to talk about, let's make up a sentence here, and I want to say, God, hatheos, God loves, Aga, agapa. Okay. God loves, and then I want to say the apostle. Ton, apostolon. Apostolon. Okay. All right. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically keeping in mind the various cases we have. We've got a sentence where we have hatheos, God. Here's our verb loves, and here is our second noun in the direct object, ton apostolon. Okay? Now, you'll notice that this word right here looks a lot like a word you memorized, apostolos. And it is. It's the same word. Apostolos is the lexical form, that's the nominative form of the word. But apostola is the stem, and stems will take different endings to show what their function is in the sentence. So in the same way, theos has a stem, thea, and it will take different case endings to show its function in the sentence. In this case, theos is taking a nominative ending, and it shows that it's a subject of this verb. Apostolos, or apostolon, is taking a accusative case ending, which is showing it's a direct object in the sentence. Okay? And so the way we would translate this is God loves the apostle. Now, if we made a simple change, so let's do this. We're going to change the article on God, and we are going to change the ending. So we're going to say ton theon, and then over here we're going to change the article to a nominative article, and we're going to change the ending here to the nominative ending. And we, word order aside, we just change the words. We change the endings on the words. You've got ton theon agapa ha apostolos. And the way we would translate this is you always take whatever is the subject, the nominative, whatever's in the nominative is the subject, and we put it before the verb. And so in this case, even though the word order is God loves the apostle, we would put the word order in the nominative first. The apostle loves God, ton theon. And so word order is not as important in Greek. What is important are the case endings that you add to nouns. In the next video, I'm going to show you what are the case endings and how that works, as well as the article and how that works as they attach to various nouns.